In the granite quarries of Aswan, Egypt, carved into bedrock harder than steel, there are marks that seem out of place in the ancient world. Smooth curved scoops cut into solid granite with such consistency that many modern observers say they look machine-made. These marks appear around some of the most ambitious stone projects in Egypt, especially the Unfinished Obelisk, a single granite monolith that would have weighed over 1,000 tons if completed. For more than a century, archaeologists explained the marks through a familiar story. Ancient workers shaped granite by pounding it with dolerite stones, a harder rock capable of fracturing granite through repeated blows. Experimental archaeology showed that the method can work. Granite can indeed be broken and shaped this way. But the quarry marks themselves raise uncomfortable questions. The scoops are unusually smooth, uniform in size, and repeated with striking regularity. Instead of the rough pits expected from impact pounding, they resemble the path of a controlled cutting tool. That discrepancy sat mostly unresolved for decades. Then, in 2024, researchers reportedly asked Elon Musk's AI system, Grok, to analyze high-resolution images of the Aswan quarry marks without assuming the traditional explanation was correct. The AI compared the patterns against databases of ancient and modern cutting techniques and evaluated what kind of tool or process best matched the evidence. According to the claim, Grok concluded that the marks were inconsistent with simple dolerite pounding and more closely resembled traces left by rotational or mechanically guided cutting. It identified geometric precision, consistent tool radii, and microscopic patterns that looked more like controlled cutting than random percussion. If true, that would imply either a much more sophisticated stoneworking method than commonly accepted, or a serious misunderstanding of how the quarry was worked. The Aswan quarries lie along the Nile in southern Egypt and supplied granite for pyramids, temples, obelisks, and statues. Granite there is exceptionally hard, around 6 to 7 on the Mohs scale, tougher than the copper and bronze tools normally associated with dynastic Egypt. The scoop marks are typically 6 to 8 inches wide and 2 to 4 inches deep, carved in overlapping arcs that create a wave-like texture across trench walls. Traditional archaeology interprets these as the cumulative result of thousands of hammering blows. But when modern researchers attempt the same method, the resulting marks are rougher, less uniform, and far more irregular than what is seen in Aswan. Grok's analysis reportedly found size variation under 5% across large areas, spacing variation under 3%, and remarkably consistent entry angles. Those are the kinds of regularities more typical of guided machinery than of different workers swinging stones by hand. Some of the strangest features appear in locations difficult to explain with manual pounding. Certain scoop patterns continue into confined spaces where a worker could barely position themselves. Others appear on steep or vertical walls where maintaining a consistent striking angle would be extremely awkward. Grok reportedly suggested that the cutting motion behaved as if independent of human body constraints, more like the path of a tool moving along a controlled arc. The AI also examined deep, narrow test pits cut into the granite, shafts 30 to 50 feet deep and only a few feet wide. Archaeologists usually describe them as exploratory pits used to test stone quality. But the geometry raises problems: cramped working space, poor lighting, difficult debris removal, and surprisingly smooth walls extending all the way down. Some pits even curve as they descend, following internal veins or structural lines in the granite that would not be visible from the surface. That hints at an unusual understanding of the stone's internal structure. The most controversial claims involve microscopic evidence. According to the account, electron microscope images showed faint spiral patterns inside some scoop marks, consistent with rotational cutting. Tiny particles appeared partially fused or melted, suggesting localized heating from high-speed friction. Trace materials were said to resemble diamond dust or corundum, both common in modern industrial cutting tools. Grok reportedly compared these signatures to modern methods such as water-jet cutting, ultrasonic cutting, and diamond-tipped rotary tools. None of those technologies existed in ancient Egypt, at least not in any accepted historical model. But the comparison implied that the quarry marks functionally resembled the results of advanced cutting processes more than simple percussion. Another intriguing point was the placement of the deep test pits. When mapped together, they reportedly align with fault lines, mineral veins, and structural weaknesses in the granite, features modern geologists identify using tools like ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys. If ancient quarry workers intentionally placed pits along those hidden structures, they possessed either extraordinary empirical knowledge or some method of reading the stone far beyond what is usually credited to Bronze Age technology. Grok also interpreted a large depression in the quarry not as a harbor, as traditionally thought, but as the cavity left by removing an enormous granite block possibly weighing 3,000 to 5,000 tons. That would far exceed the size of the largest confirmed stones known from Egyptian construction projects. The timeline implications are even more unsettling. Some prehistoric-style red ochre paintings appear on top of the scoop-marked surfaces, meaning the scoop marks were already present before the paintings were applied. If those paintings are genuinely pre-dynastic, the most sophisticated quarry work could predate dynastic Egypt by thousands of years. Grok reportedly observed another odd pattern. The oldest-looking quarry work appeared the most precise, while later dynastic work looked rougher and cruder. That reverses the normal expectation that technology improves over time. Instead, it suggests decline or lost knowledge. At this point, several possibilities emerge. One is that ancient Egyptians possessed stoneworking techniques far more advanced than the surviving archaeological toolkit suggests. Another is that the most sophisticated quarry work predates dynastic Egypt and belonged to an earlier culture whose capabilities were later inherited but not fully replicated. A third is that our chronology and understanding of Egyptian technological development are incomplete. None of these possibilities are easy to accept because they challenge deeply established assumptions about the ancient world. There is, however, an important caution. The story about Grok AI solving the Aswan mystery has circulated widely online, but there is no known peer-reviewed publication, no publicly released technical report, and no confirmed evidence that XAI conducted such an archaeological study. The claims about microscopic signatures, diamond dust, and machine-like precision should therefore be treated as unverified unless independent researchers publish the data and methods. The quarry marks are real. The questions about how they were made are legitimate. But extraordinary conclusions require transparent evidence, reproducible analysis, and scrutiny from specialists in archaeology, geology, material science, and ancient engineering. Still, the debate itself is revealing. The Aswan quarries genuinely contain features that are difficult to explain neatly with simple textbook narratives. Ancient Egyptian stoneworking was almost certainly more sophisticated than many people imagine. Whether that sophistication involved lost techniques, underestimated craftsmanship, or something more radical remains unresolved. What AI can do usefully is help measure patterns, compare geometries, and flag anomalies humans might overlook. But AI does not replace archaeological evidence. It can highlight mysteries. It cannot by itself rewrite history.